Nej men hallå. Trevligt att se er här. Jag slänger mig lite rakt in i den här streamen för jag har inte riktigt haft koll på det här uppdraget att det skulle komma idag. Eller så här, jag har väntat länge på att kolla på ESCAPADE. Eller hur man nu ska uttala det. ESCAPADE. Det har jag länge sett fram emot att se för att det skulle vara New Glens andra flygning och det är alltid kul att se försök med återanvändningsbara rymdraketer. Men vad jag inte hade koll på var att det skulle vara idag. Så nu är det bara 23 minuter kvar till liftoff och jag tunar in lite. Om vi byter till den här serien, kolla. Här ser vi faktiskt liksom the literal landing boat. Och jag ska flytta ner mig så att man ser uppskjutningstiden där. Så där vet ni. Fan vad bra. Sen vill jag ha den så att jag kan zooma in på mig lite. Så där vet du. Det där tror jag blir utmärkt. Jag är live nu va? Jag tror jag är live. Yes. Då kan vi sätta på ljudet här också.
Going to Mars, first interplanetary spacecraft for Rocket Lab, all of these really amazing things. And for me, the excitement is it's really the first mission that we are going to launch for Artemis to be able to start getting ready to protect our crews when they go to Mars. Super excited about Artemis 2 next year.
Så öppnar vi den här också, en Pepsi Max.
Eyes on Mars.
We're all eyes on Escapade and Mars today, aren't we?
Amazing. Isn't this nice that I believe your background is in heliophysics. How do you feel about going to Mars? Like we're mixing it up in the solar system for you.
Well, I will tell you, for heliophysics, the moment you leave the Earth's atmosphere, you're traveling in my neighborhood.
That's fair.
Right? So heliophysics goes all the way from the center of the sun to the very outer edge of our solar system. So I actually was one of the, I got to select this mission, so could not be more excited to be here with my amazing heliophysics team getting ready to launch this mission.
And especially given the advanced space has made this extraordinary trajectory that the two spacecraft are going to fly around L2, but also again in your neighborhood.
First time ever, and it actually unlocks a lot of possibilities for us thinking about Mars going forward, because now maybe we're not stuck with these Mars launch windows.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's just it's such a fantastic day.
Cool.
And really briefly, like, can you explain that for our viewers? Because what we're doing is we're kind of doing it in the middle period where we normally wouldn't send something to Mars, but we're going to sit it and let it wait. So explain that.
We are. So we don't have to wait another basically 13 months for Mars to get exactly in the right place and then launch. We are launching the mission. It's going to basically hang out and then wait for Mars to come into the right location and then accelerate full speed ahead to Mars. So it's just a really great, yet another mission of firsts. Yeah.
So many great things. Dr. Fox, thank you for taking the time. I'm sorry I had to grab you, but we couldn't pass up this opportunity.
Well, and I just want to thank you guys. I want to thank Blue Origin for their amazing partnership on the New Glenn. I want to thank Rocket Labs for all the work they've done, the amazing team at NASA Goddard, my incredible team at NASA headquarters. We deliver, they crush it every day, delivering for the nation, inspiring the world.
Well, and thank you. It is an honor to fly a NASA payload on New Glenn today. That you trust us with your technology like that, it means a lot. It's first of many to come, we hope.
First of many to come.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Dr. Fox. Appreciate
Gotta get back to the console. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye. Well, with that, I mean, it's so great to add people to the webcast team today. But let's throw it back over to Eddie. Eddie, he is out. He is out with a great view in Rocket Park. And Eddie, who you got there?
Yeah, hey Tabitha, hey Ariane. We know going to space is a team effort, and I've got one of those key teammates with me today. This is Tim Fisher, one of the chief engineers of Blue Moon, and behind us is Lunar Plant 1 that has 2.5 million square feet. Well, it brings our rocket park facility
de har just flyttat fram den väldigt långt.
production space. Tim, what
52
happens in the
minuter
building
kvar
behind
nu då.
us?
Shit.
We're building our Mark II crewed lander, one of the biggest spacecraft ever, and our cislunar transporter, another humongous spacecraft, almost as big as the upper stage of New Glenn. And we even have parts of our second serial number of the Mark I lander in there right now.
No, it's very exciting what this team gets to do on a daily basis, helping NASA, helping Blue return to the moon, this time to stay. Tim, what makes our lunar lander so special?
Well, we're here for reusability and sustainability. We've chosen a lander architecture that someday we can refuel and reuse and go back and forth to the moon several times with the same lander.
This is exciting, right? This is the stuff of science fiction, and Tim and his team are making it happen. And soon, right? Tell us about Mark I. What is that about?
So Mark I is our Pathfinder. It's using a lot of the same technologies. It's a hydrogen-oxygen lunar lander, and we are aiming it for the moon this spring, and it's going to prove out a lot of the technologies we need to get the crewed lander.
Tabitha, Ariane, I'm excited to return to the moon, this time to stay. What else can we answer here?
I love it. Hey, Eddie, I mean, you saw in the video, we had some B-roll playing back there. You can see with the cars for scale and the massive building. Can you talk a little bit about why it's so big? I mean, our lunar landers, you know, are not necessarily going to be that big. Why does the building need to be that big?
Yeah, no, Tim and I were just talking about this, right? The Mark II crew lander that will be ready soon, it stands over 16 meters tall. So you have to encapsulate that in the very large New Glenn fairing, and that happens in the building behind us. So then we can send that payload fairing to the integration facility at LC-36 and get it ready to New Glenn and launch it to the moon.
Fantastic. I should note, Tabitha, that there's the co-location component of this is so important from a production and ease and operation standpoint. I should also say that's one of the reasons why we built our rocket factory here in Florida. We're the
Det är sjukt att man är så jävla saturated av SpaceX egentligen. Hade det inte varit för Starship-programmet så hade detta varit så sjukt. Alltså man tänker på det med liksom en 16 meter hög månlandare som ska vara återanvändningsbar och så ska de flyga nu en jättestor raket som landar första steget liksom. Det här hade varit liksom så jävla intressant. Och liksom helt sjukt om det inte var för Starship-programmet. Det är fortfarande helt sjukt. Alltså så här, det är ju lika sjukt. Det är verkligen science fiction som man säger. Det är bara synd när man har blivit så saturated av Starship att man tänker liksom inte riktigt på detta som hur jävla sjukt det är. Men att vi har en sån månlandare som liksom Blue Moon Mark 2.
Campus here in Florida to then be able to add
fuck yeah, alltså, fuck yeah.
the other programs, not just the New Glenn program.
Right, certainly continuing to build in many ways, and of course build the road to space for the benefit of Earth. Well, if you are just joining us,
Hallå Kitte, välkommen till streamen. De ska landa på en båt faktiskt. Så det är som en Falcon 9-raket fast mycket större. Och vad som är extra spännande då är att den här raketmodellen har bara flygit en gång tidigare och då lyckades de inte landa. Så om de lyckas landa nu så är det liksom första lyckade försöket. Så det är väldigt spännande för det liksom.
First couple dozen of employees. Really? That man has been here. He's a legend at our company. So if we've given him flag bearer, he's
earned that honor. Hype man for today. Such an exciting day for all of us here at Blue Origin. But right now, we're going to take a moment. We're going to throw it right over to this beautiful rocket. Let you sit with it there on the pad as we are continuing.
De landar nog typ 10 minuter efter uppskjutningen. Egentligen skulle uppskjutningen vara väldigt snart, men de har skjutit upp det nu då. Jag kanske borde ändra titeln på YouTube på grund av det. Let me just do that. Så när är den nya uppskjutningstiden? 21:18. Sådär. Fuck yeah. Exciting times, is it not?
All right, welcome back. You are currently watching the broadcast of NG2. We're at L minus 44 minutes and 50 seconds, and I've got to throw it out to our very own Eddie Seyfert, who is with employees at Rocket Park. They are pumped. We are pumped. Eddie, bring it to us. What's going on out there?
I mean, what can I say? This is hype. This crew, they've committed to be louder than before. This is the heartbeat of New Glenn. These people here, these teammates of ours, they're the ones that build BE4. They're the ones that build New Glenn GS1, GS2, that put ESCAPADE on top of that rocket. And they're here to see a launch. Who's ready for a launch?
ESCAPADE, är det så det uttalas?
Eddie, it's so great to be able to see so many people come out on a Sunday, by the way. That just shows you, as you said, the heartbeat of New Glenn. What are they talking about? What are they most excited about today?
Yeah, well listen, this crowd is hyped, as you mentioned.
Och det har varit så kul om det gick bra idag.
Just so excited.
Och de i alla fall lyckades få det primära uppdraget upp på rätt omloppsbana.
Feel that the crowd has been growing too.
Tänk att New Glenn är operational innan Starship. Det är en ganska märklig tanke då, eller?
Just as pumped, and what gets me, like, as a nerd, even if you're not a space nerd, look at that image. That is
stunning.
So cool. Like the
well, yeah, what's happening to it right now?
So basically, this rocket is fully fueled. We've got the liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen on the second stage. That's what you see there on the top. And then you'll see the fins there, and just below the fins there you go. That's the New Glenn first stage with liquefied natural gas and liquid oxygen in there. And it looks like it's steaming, but it's quite the contrary. It's really cold. So what you see, you can barely see, New Glenn on the side of the rocket there, and it's so cool.
It is really. I mean, that's the right
like
word.
A nerd. I'm
it's
sorry.
Cool because it's cool.
I know. I had kids, but like my husband, I'm popping out dad jokes. It's really awful. It happens. But anyway, it is the rocket is looking really good. I should say, Tabitha, The team has been working so hard over the last couple of days to get that rocket ready, and in particular, we learned so much on NG1. So much. This is the first time you do something, okay, like you design it one way, but you don't really see how things are going to click and connect physically on the rocket, but also from a team perspective, from an operational perspective, until you do it. And so we learned so much on NG1, and to see the speed and the improvement on NG2 has been amazing. Last week, so I was down here last week for what we call integrated hot fire. So what we do is we stack the rocket, looked exactly like this. We hold down the rocket and we fire the 7 BE4 engines. There you see the base of the rocket, those 7 BE4 engines.
Super powerful.
Just to make sure that everything is flowing and working right. And from, we rolled out the rocket one evening and we hot fired the rocket the next evening. That took us several attempts the first time we did this. And this time, boom, within 24 hours, we had our integrated hot fire test complete, which is what led us here. And then basically a week later, we were on the pad ready to launch because we had a couple of learnings that came out of that integrated
lite söndagsgodis.
We're ready to go. Right back at it. It wasn't a ton of things. And so
unna sig.
One way in which we're showing the improvement in our operations of this rocket. And if we keep up on that trajectory,
think about what that leads to.
That is what's going to lead to the launch, land, repeat. And that's why today is so important for everybody at home. We're objective number one, putting this rocket into space to put our customer, our NASA ESCAPADE mission into space. Objective number two is to get that first stage, the booster, to land on the ship downrange, because we need to learn from the landed booster to be able to do the refurbishment, because this rocket is reusable, because we're going to bring down the cost of access to space through that reusability. But
Exactly.
Look at that.
But just taking a moment to sit with the rocket, let's actually toss it back over to the rocket on the pad. Again, you are watching the webcast of NG2.
I'm getting chills.
I mean, Ariane, New Glenn looks fantastic right now. It is almost peaceful, heavenly-like looking, especially with the clouds. I know that we're in a weather hold right now, but it looks really nice. It's beautiful.
She's just chilling, that rocket.
She's being illuminated. She's chilling. The rocket's chilling. I'm chilling. Ariane's chilling. But you at home, don't chill. Come with me. We want to take you through something really cool, okay? While we're in this hold, let's talk about Viasat's HaloNet network. Now, the commercial communication system supporting NASA's shift to next-generation space relay services is actually a part of today's mission as well.
That's right. So the same technology featured here is being demonstrated on today's New Glenn flight to relay launch telemetry in real time.
There's a pulse that drives every mission, a signal, a connection, a lifeline. In space, where timing is critical and distance immense, communications can't fall behind. From liftoff to orbit and throughout the mission lifecycle, HaloNet enables real-time, continuous, and on-demand telemetry, tracking, and control over secure L-band links, providing resilient connectivity with or without local ground infrastructure. In orbit, HaloNet provides high-throughput, low-latency data relay over secure satellite links, designed for global operations, with roaming support that keeps you connected throughout the mission. When near real-time access to data is essential, HaloNet's global ground station network ensures direct-to-Earth connectivity, delivering rapid downlink around the world. And when your mission takes you off the grid, HaloNet includes a portable, field-deployable command and control platform, a self-contained mobile gateway that extends connectivity into remote or unpredictable environments, enabling continuous operations. Built with security in mind, HaloNet integrates next-generation encryption, trusted by defense and government users worldwide, protecting mission-critical data from the ground up. As legacy systems retire, HaloNet is already engineered to support what's next. From scalable infrastructure to emerging capabilities like optical communications. From the ground to orbit and everything in between, HaloNet is the pulse of your mission, connecting space, empowering progress, securing the future.
So you saw Viasat. We haven't. We should speak a little bit more about this payload because it's the primary payload, of course, is ESCAPADE. You actually saw there in the middle of the video. We had a little side box there that showed the two twin satellites inside the fairing, live, ready for their launch to space today. But on top of the payload adapter, kind of the base of where you saw the two satellites in there, is also this Viasat for it's essentially a radio.
It's a demonstration.
It's a demonstration technology, radio technology for telemetry.
There it is.
Oh, well, there you go. There are the two satellites. What a beautiful, the two ESCAPADE satellites. We got blue and gold in there. But I just want to talk about this because we talk about landing the rocket today. That is huge. But getting our customers to where they need to go is really, really important. So we're going to deploy those two satellites at about T+33 minutes. But then the second stage is going to continue in space, right? The two satellites go on their way. And that is when we're going to turn on the Viasat payload as well. So the Viasat payload is not going to deploy. It's going to stay on the rocket, and they're going to test their technology. And it's so, we feel so honored that we've got organizations like NASA.
Right.
We've got organizations like Viasat, one of the foremost satellite operators in the world, that are entrusting Blue Origin with their technology. And, yes, this is the second launch of our rocket, but we have shown that through the way that we do our engineering and our development and our testing program, that they said, okay, let's take a chance with you guys. And that means a lot to us. That is not lost on us. And so I want to thank you know, our customers,
partners.
all of our partners and customers that have flown with us and are going to fly with us. It really does mean a lot. It's not lost on us what our mission is.
Not at all. Little rideshare payload. The Viasat CPS technical demonstration is what we will be seeing. And you right there are seeing a live look from Jacqueline. And Ariane, it would look so much better, as you said.
God.
It's missing something.
It's missing. There's something
It's just something
off
that
on
could
this
go
image.
right in the middle.
Right
That would look real good.
Can I tell? A lot of people don't know this. That landing pad is the same size as the landing pad for New Shepard.
It is.
Which
That's right.
the rocket is 5 times taller. Just think you scale something up 5 times, and we're going to land. To be fair, that's all stacked together. But it's still 7 meters in diameter, and the first stage is massive in its own right. It's still like landing a building, but it's on the same circumference as New Shepard.
It is a moment that I know we're all kind of on the edge of our seats waiting for. I certainly am. We've been building up to this moment for months, and then technically for years, if we look at how much time it has taken from the start of this company. 25 years ago, we just had our 25th anniversary, and something really interesting, Ariane, 10 years to the month and almost to the day is when we landed the New Shepard booster.
Yes, it was. And I don't want to be misquoted. I think it was November 15th. It'd be off by a day or two.
That's all right. No one's holding you to it.
But it was of 2015.
Yeah.
When we landed New Shepard for the first time, and that was the first time any organization had ever landed a booster that had gone to space before. And I had the honor of being down there. The organization looked a little bit different than it does today. We had a couple hundred employees. We're now over 10,000 employees.
Yeah.
We basically had Kent and we had West Texas, and that's it. And there was a group of, I don't know, maybe like 15 of us, a dozen of us on this back porch. Of course, there was mission control, and it was the second time we had attempted this. Similar to, there are a lot of parallels. Similar to New Glenn, we had a beautiful first launch, but if it were an expendable rocket, it had been a perfect first launch. We didn't land the booster the way we wanted to, and on the second launch, we launched it, and it came back, and Tabitha got, this is like ingrained, like just burned in my memory, is this rocket came down, and we heard on this handheld radio, you know, the engines, like drag brakes deployed. Engine relay, and people are just like losing it.
Holding their breath.
And you see in the distance, because for New Shepard, you're a couple miles away, and it kicked up all this dust, and then we heard touchdown. And there you go. See, you see our happy engineers. It was like that. We just lost our minds. And I am sure that today, when this rocket comes down and does the same thing, it will be like that, but also as we have scaled up, everything gets scaled up, all the energy, it will be over 10,000 employees losing their mind. Is that man wearing a kilt?
There's no judgment here. This is awesome.
More kilts. I love it. Hashtag more kilts.
But one thing is, you know, we have built this company for a lot of things, and another big piece of it is customer focus.
Yes.
I got the chance to talk to Dave Limp about this yesterday. It's such an important part of everything we do, and it really ties into something else that we have, and that is our Mars Telecommunications Orbiter, or MTO. And let's kind of dive into this for a little bit. So current communications spacecraft at Mars, they're aging, and we need to make sure that we have new and robust capabilities out there that can kind of support not just our existing rovers and instruments doing groundbreaking work on the Martian surface, but also to lay the groundwork for more science and even more human missions. Well, the first human mission and all those beyond that.
Exactly, and our Mars Telecommunications Orbiter is based on existing blue ring vehicle, and it provides high rate communications, but also does much more in a single spacecraft.
Yeah, in addition to communications, our Blue Ring MTO could also fly exciting science payloads and technology demonstrations. For example, flying a synthetic aperture radar on Blue Ring MTO will help us find the ice on Mars, which will inform future landing sites for human missions. So take a look at our Mars Telecommunications Orbiter.
Tabitha, that concept is really cool. I also want to warn you, I am very biased. Because
Tell me why, Ariane. Why are you biased?
So about 6 months ago, I took my current role, but prior to that, I had the honor.
Snöar.
Just to note, well, we definitely have rain out there on the pad.
But this is Florida. If you don't like the weather, just wait 10 minutes.
Yeah, well, exactly. So but now you guys know why we were waiting for a little bit. We saw this coming, so we're just holding here and added a little bit more time to the clock, and that's why we're still holding about 24 minutes and 50 seconds to go until launch. We're going to wait for this to pass. But as I was mentioning, prior to taking this current role, I had the honor of being deputy in charge of our in-space systems business unit that is building Blue Ring, and Blue Ring has this ability to take up to 13 payloads and then deploy them, but then also act as the comms relay, also do edge computing in space. So basically, you know, in a very simplified way of talking about it, it's kind of like a mission in a box. You can take that whole constellation, send it to Mars, deploy the satellites, and then use the Blue Ring itself, which did its first job as transporting, to then be the communications relay back to Earth. And the more power you have,
sådana här saker tror jag verkligen på. Alltså vi behöver... Det är nice om de som bygger satelliten slipper tänka på sånt. Om de bara kan köra vetenskapsexperiment eller vad de nu vill ha satellit till. Och allting är redan löst med
future, not just the science that needs to happen to prep us for our future missions to
kommunikation.
Mars, for let's say robotic landers and things like that, but also for people to go to Mars one day. So we're really excited about the prospect of this mission and what we can do again for our customer here at NASA as they think about future exploration missions.
Yeah, it's so exciting to hear just about everything that is happening. Again, you are watching the webcast for NG2. We're at L-23 minutes and about 20 seconds. Let's toss it back over to New Glenn on the pad. That booster, so appropriately named, Never Tell Me the Odds, looking nice and cool. Ariane, right now you and I, we're sitting here at the desk. We are looking at this beautiful image of New Glenn on the pad. But yesterday, you and I actually got to go out to the pad. We had some time to look at NG2 in all glory. And so I want to talk about how cool it was for us to go and see this engineering marvel.
Let's check it out.
Okay, so walk me through kind of the different components of this rocket.
Okay, so on the most very basic level, we've got GS1, and then stacked on top of it, GS2. It's basically like stacking a rocket on top of a rocket, right? So let's maybe start with the GS1 because it's doing a lot of the work today, right? And we want to land this booster as well. At the top, we call the forward section, you'll see kind of a gold section up there at the top where the 4 fins are.
Right.
Those fins, they move back and forth, right? So they help with directional capability on the rocket. The whole main section of it, though, in the middle, is basically a big fuel tank. And then you get to the aft, the bottom section there, that has the landing gear you see in each of the doors, but it also has the 7 BE4 engines that are in the base.
Right.
At the top, then, so that's basically GS1. At the top, basically from the white portion above the gold and beyond, tucked in there are the 2 BE3U engines. The part with the feather, again, that's all basically tank, liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen for the propellants. I forgot to mention liquid oxygen and liquefied natural gas, the propellants for the first stage, so they're different propellants. And then kind of that nice, smooth top, that is the fairing. There are 2 halves of the fairing, and those will deploy off, those will fall apart once the second stage is up in space.
Right.
And inside the fairing is where the ESCAPADE, the 2 payloads, the 2 satellites of the ESCAPADE mission are currently.
Are twins.
They're twins. They're on what's called an ESPA ring. And so it's a ring that mates to the top of the rocket. And then on that ESPA ring, we put the 2 satellites. So once they're up there in orbit at about 33 minutes, first the blue will deploy. We wait 30 seconds. Pretty obvious. We don't want them to run into each other, right? And then second, the gold deploys. So that's what happens with the second stage once it's off of space. But keep in mind, first stage,
making its way home.
It's making its way home, right? So the engines have done half of the work on its way up. We flip it around. We start a burn that slows the rocket.
Right.
We then use the strakes, or they're basically our wings at the base of the rocket. It helps with what we call cross range. So we basically can effectively fly the rocket, and then it lands on the Jacqueline platform just in the last couple minutes or less even. We have 3 of the 7 engines that relight, and then finally just the final engine that lights. You don't need all of the power, all the engines, because you're landing what is effectively an empty fuel tank.
And something the size of a skyscraper.
Something that's the size of a skyscraper. So you do need power, obviously, but not as much, obviously, as when it starts. And then it should come for a nice soft landing on the Jacqueline. And if we do that,
it'll be pretty epic.
It'll be history, it'll be epic, and it opens a new chapter for Blue Origin.
So appropriately named, Never Tell Me the Odds.
Don't tell me those odds.
And Ariane, it was really, I don't know, almost like an out-of-body experience to be standing next to New Glenn. I have been to New Shepard launches. This is my first New Glenn launch. And to see New Glenn upright and to be in the presence of something the size of a skyscraper. And to learn, as you mentioned, it's essentially a rocket stacked on top of a rocket, right? And the pad itself has so much history. It's just like, I don't know, Space Coast is such a special place. This launch is so special. This rocket is so special. So
yeah, I had a chance to chat with some of our customers and our VIPs that also got a chance to check out the rocket. A lot of them, of course, have been in the industry a long time, and they got out there for a photo op yesterday, and they said, "This rocket just looks beautiful." And there is something to be said, actually, for you can look at a piece of engineering. I know it's very simplistic, but you can look at a piece of engineering and be like, aha, that looks right. That looks right. It feels right. You add too many bells and whistles, and you're like, it's not. This rocket is a marvel of engineering. It flew so well on its first go. I cannot wait to see how it performs on its second go. And as we said, we're cautiously optimistic. We've made some changes to the first stage after our first launch, where we didn't recover the booster to be able to land this time. And we feel good. We feel good. I don't want to jinx anything, but man, I feel
We're
good.
knocking. I knock on my,
knocking all over the place. Yeah.
But you're right. I've been talking to employees, for months leading up to this moment, and employees do feel good. Engineers feel good. And this launch, it feels different. It feels good. And I think everyone is just, on the edge of their seat at this precipice, right? We're ready to land the booster.
It would feel a lot better if these clouds got out of the way, if this weather got out of the way.
We are in a weather hold. So here's what's going on. If you are tuning in right now, you're watching the webcast for NG2. You might notice on your screen that we are in a hold. We're doing that to allow for a little more time for that weather to clear. We're going to let you know and keep you guys posted on the new T-clock as soon as we get information on that. So right now, let's toss it back over to New Glenn on the pad as we wait for some of this weather to just kind of move on out.
Roll on by.
Just get out of here.
Hej, vad ska jag göra åt det då? Dra åt helvete. Kanske det. Och jag gör så här.
7 BE-4 engines will ignite and propel the rocket upward with over 3.8 million pounds of thrust, or roughly 17,000 kilonewtons. The vehicle will quickly reach supersonic speeds as it climbs through the atmosphere. As the rocket ascends, it will encounter maximum aerodynamic pressure known as max Q at around 40,000 feet or 12 kilometers. This is the point at which the stress on the vehicle is at its highest. Around 3 minutes into the flight, the vehicle will turn off its engines, marking the end of the boost phase. Shortly after, the reusable first stage will separate and begin its journey back to Earth. 2 BE-3U engines on the second stage will ignite and propel it onward into orbit with the payload. The reusable booster reorients in the vacuum of space using its reaction control system. At 220,000 feet or 67 kilometers, it executes an exo-atmospheric deceleration burn using its center 3 engines. These engines gimbal for maximum control of the booster. This burn slows the vehicle down before re-entering the atmosphere. As it descends, the booster's strakes and fins work together to slow it down and guide it autonomously back to Earth, landing on a vessel at sea. At around 9,000 feet, or just under 3,000 meters, the first stage begins its final landing burn. The 3 middle engines will light for 20 seconds, slowing the vehicle in preparation for the final descent. The 2 outer engines will turn off, and the center engine will execute the final controlled maneuver onto the landing platform. The vessel will return to Cape Canaveral to prepare for its next mission. Meanwhile, in space, the second stage will continue to power the payload towards its final orbit. At around 400,000 feet or 120 kilometers, the payload fairings will jettison. New Glenn will deliver an unprecedented range of payloads. Large satellites, dual payloads, orbital vehicles, large constellation dispensers, even moonlanders destined to establish permanent human presence on the moon. Once it arrives at its insertion location, the payload will separate from New Glenn's second stage. This is New Glenn. This is how we will build a road to space.
I get chills every time I see that feather come on screen. It's such a great piece pulled together to really explain what's going to be happening with NG2. So there you go. You have a live look, though, of New Glenn on the pad. Now you understand the entire flight profile. But while we're in this hold and we're working out weather, let's go ahead and send it back over to the rocket and just sit with NG2. good, Tabitha. And I'd be like, you're right. It's looking a lot better, huh? Well, we're also chasing some boats out of the way.
Boats.
There are some boats that are essentially being told, hey, you're in our flight path. You got to get out of here. They should have known that to begin with, but that's just one of the other things that you deal with when you deal with rocket launches.
Tabitha, I'm gonna try to see the silver lining in this, or I'm gonna try to be the ever optimist that I am. Last time we had this launch, we also had an errant boat in our in our flight path. And we had a pretty spectacular launch, and we put our payload, got to orbit, we filled our objective. So I'm gonna call this a good luck omen.
A good luck. You know, speaking of good luck omens, yesterday, me, you, and our very own Eddie Seyfert, we were headed out to the launch pad, and we saw a tortoise crossing the road. And if you didn't know, tortoises are a part of our coat of arms, and we find them as a sign of good luck. So Eddie, you are out there, you are with employees, you're at the best spot to see the rocket launch. But let's talk about something serious for a second. Let's talk about how hard it is to land the booster. For those of you who don't know, you probably do know if you're watching this webcast, on our first attempt, we weren't able to land the booster, but we were able to get our payload into orbit. Today, our big objective, aside from getting our payload into orbit, which is ESCAPADE, is we want to land our booster. No, never tell me the odds, and I like the name of that booster, so I want to keep it. So Eddie, how hard is that?
Well, so first off, thank you for your patience. The weather here is looking a little better. The boats, as Ariane said last time, definitely safety is our highest priority. And the tortoise, for me, a sign of good luck. I mean, I think it's just a trifecta of signs that we're ready to not just launch ESCAPADE to space successfully, but to land this booster. So we learned a lot. Nothing substitutes flight data. So the GS1 booster, after it separates from the GS2 upper stage, it does a 180-degree flip maneuver so that the aft section is facing backwards, or basically back down to Earth, but in the flight path. And so that 180-degree maneuver is conducted by our reaction control system. They're peroxide monothrusters. We call them the severe weather agility thrusters. And those worked perfectly last time. We did the maneuver. And then the BE4 engine goes for reignition. So the 3 center engines reignite what we call the exo-atmospheric re-entry burn. And its entire purpose is to slow down the GS1 as it re-enters the atmosphere so that its superior aerodynamic performance, those long strakes, those forward fins, can guide the GS1 booster over the Jacqueline.
Yeah, Eddie, thank you for such a good explanation for our viewers at home, because it took a little bit for me to understand too exactly. I'm like, why is it so difficult? And it's like, Tabitha, it's pretty difficult. And I'm like, yeah, it's like when you watch the Olympics and you watch someone run fast, you're like, oh, I can do that. It's like, no, you can't. It's actually quite difficult. So thank you, Eddie, for that great explanation. Again, we are currently in a hold. You are watching NG2, our webcast here. We are at about L-20 minutes. We're going to toss it right back over to the rocket. New Glenn is on the pad. It is feeling cool. It is looking cool. And it is literally, Ariane, very cool right now. right, friends, you are watching the webcast for NG2 right now. You can see New Glenn out there on the pad. But an important part of what's happening today with New Glenn is we are sending ESCAPADE to Mars. And I got the extreme privilege, the honor, if you will, to talk to the principal investigator of ESCAPADE, Dr. Rob Lillis. Check it out. Rob, for someone who doesn't know, what does the principal investigator of ESCAPADE do?
So the principal investigator is entrusted by NASA to execute the entire project. So it's kind of like the buck stops with me. I have a team of excellent people around me, but I'm responsible for the production of the data, the definition of the science requirements, the execution, the technical aspect of the mission. I think it's a great model for how NASA sort of entrusts the completion, execution of a mission to a partner like UC Berkeley, where I'm based.
And ESCAPADE is a really special project. We are so excited to be taking it up today on NG2. Tell me a little bit about what ESCAPADE does.
So ESCAPADE is a twin spacecraft mission going to Mars, orbiting Mars to sample the ways in which Mars and its upper atmosphere respond to changes in space weather. By space weather, I mean the million-mile-per-hour stream of charged particles that the sun is at all times throwing out. Sometimes that stream gets gusty, and the gustiness, essentially, of it is what we call space weather. And there's all sorts of ways that can happen. The magnetic field can get stronger, the speed can get higher, the density can get higher, and all those things have an effect on the Martian atmosphere. And over time, it can strip away the particles in the upper atmosphere. And we know that this has been an important process by which Mars's climate has changed over Martian history. Early in Mars history, up to about 2 billion years ago, Mars was at least occasionally warm and wet. It had a thick atmosphere. It was habitable. We don't know whether life actually existed, but it was habitable there. But then in the last 2 billion years, it's lost most of its atmosphere. And we think that the stripping of the atmosphere by the solar wind is a big reason why that happened. And ESCAPADE is going to be sampling and investigating these processes with a stereo perspective with 2 spacecraft. And that's really important, because up until now, with one single spacecraft, we've only been able to measure either the solar wind itself or the effect of the solar wind closer to the planet. We've either had the cause or the effect, but separately. With ESCAPADE, we can have 2 spacecraft simultaneously cause and effect at the same time. And so that's the breakthrough that ESCAPADE is going to provide us in understanding the processes by which the atmosphere is stripped away.
And once we understand that, I mean, how does that affect us here back on Earth or future Mars missions?
Right. So it's important for a couple of reasons. One, I think we're just curious as to how planets evolve in general. Like over the billions of years, planets, they change their atmospheric composition. They're more volcanically active, and that can affect the atmosphere too. And so this is an important piece, isn't the only piece, of course, but it's an important piece of the puzzle of Mars climate evolution. And that's interesting just because we love to explore as humans. But it's also important because space weather can have a practical effect on robotic spacecraft that we send to Mars future, and also humans when they explore Mars. This is important for a couple of different reasons. One, a big space weather event, what's often called an interplanetary shock or a coronal mass ejection, when the sun belches out a couple billion tons of hot plasma, often at high speed, high density. As that shock expands through the solar system, it accelerates particles to really high energies, high enough energies that they can go right through a spacesuit and cause astronaut health problems.
Right.
And so the radiation on the surface of Mars, when you get a big enough coronal mass ejection, you can get 100 days worth of radiation in one day.
Yeah,
this happened last year.
Wow.
This happened last year, June 6th, 2024. The usual background level of radiation was increased by a factor of 100 for that day when that happened. And so if you're an astronaut on the surface of Mars, you don't want to be out away from your radiation shelter when that happens. And so ESCAPADE's measurements are going to enable us to better forecast those radiation hazards. There's another reason too why ESCAPADE's important, because we're also going to be studying the ionosphere. So this is a layer of gas in the upper atmosphere that's ionized. And that's important because that layer, it distorts radio signals as they pass through it. And understanding the variability and the structure of that ionosphere will help us to correct for those distortions.
For communication.
Communication, but also for navigation, because there's going to want to be GPS on Mars eventually. And understanding how the ionosphere distorts the GPS signals will enable astronauts to know better where they are. All these things are taken into account on Earth. It's all behind the scenes. So your phone doesn't have to like show you how they're correcting for it, but that's all behind the scenes on Earth. we want to be able to do that same error correction on Mars, and ESCAPADE will help us understand the ionosphere.
It's really cool to know that we're thinking about these future problems now.
Yeah.
And speaking of things that are happening in the future, I mean, ESCAPADE is not going to be making it actually to Mars. The spacecrafts aren't going to be there for at least 2027.
That's right. That's right indeed. Yeah.
So what happens once ESCAPADE deploys? Kind of tell me more about the trajectory.
Okay, well, so after it deploys, first of all, there's a few important checkouts we have to do. The first thing is we got to deploy the solar panels and we got to get it to speak to us. And so actually, the viewers will be interested to know that we may not hear from the spacecraft for up to 3 hours after launch. And that is by design.
Okay.
Because we have 2 antennas, one on either side of the spacecraft, and they only work one at a time. And we don't know which one necessarily is going to be pointed towards Earth initially. So if the one that turns on first happens to be pointed away from Earth, we got to wait 2 hours until it decides, oh, I'm not hearing from Earth, and it switches over to the other one. So no one should panic if we don't hear from it within that first hour. But once we know that we have signal, we're hearing from it, and we know the solar panels are deployed and they're facing the sun, so that's called power positive. So it's a safe and a stable mode. Then we can relax, and then we can start focusing on the longer term aspects of the mission. And you mentioned trajectory. So yes, we are taking quite an unusual path to Mars. We are going to spend about a year in a very large Earth orbit, fairly gravitationally bound to the Earth. We're calling this the loitering phase. It's in the shape of a kidney bean. It kind of goes like this. And next November 2026, we're going to come back to Earth after going more than 2 million miles away. We're going to come back to only 600 kilometers above the surface. We're going to use Earth's gravity and burn our engines at that point, taking advantage of Earth's gravity to slingshot ourselves toward Mars. Because early November next year is when the interplanetary window opens for a transit from Earth to Mars. So all Mars missions before us have had to wait until this narrow 3 or 4 week window every 25 months. We're launching halfway between these 2 windows, so we're just going to kind of hang out in near Earth space until it's time to go to Mars. And this has never been done before. And this is really, really exciting because this actually opens up the possibility in the future. If humans want to actually settle Mars, we're going to have to send hundreds, maybe even thousands of ships to Mars within that 2 or 3 or 4 week window. And there aren't enough launch pads on Earth to reliably do that just within that window. So we could launch them over the course of a whole year, maybe, and we could like sort of queue them up, so that they're kind of lined up so they can go when that window opens. And so this is hopefully going to pioneer a way to essentially enable interplanetary settlement in the distant future. Who knows?
And once the mission actually starts, how long is the mission going to be going on?
So, so I mentioned November. Because ESCAPADE is doing another thing that's never been done before, which is the first ever formation flying around another planet other than the Earth or
a lot of firsts on this
the Moon. It's kind of like pearls on a string. Both spacecraft have to get into the same orbit, and that it takes a while to adjust both orbits to make that happen. And also in the middle of that, there's what we call solar conjunction, where the sun gets in the way between Earth and Mars, and we can't talk to it for a whole month. So we kind of just have to chill out, go into safe mode, and just wait. And so this is the reason why it's going to take us an additional 7 months after we get to Mars before we can start the science mission in spring 2028. And then we have an 11-month science mission, and that's also in...
So this is going to take us all the way into 2029.
Yes, exactly, yeah. It's, I think, May 2029 is the nominal end of the science mission. And I mentioned the 2 spacecraft are going to be the pearls on a string. We do that for the first 6 months. And that's important because we want to know how the upper atmosphere of Mars is changing minute to minute. So in the past, with only single orbiter missions, we've had to wait 4 or 5 hours to see how things have changed. And by that point, the planet's turned a quarter rotation, things are different. We don't know how anything changes on short timescales at all on Mars. ESCAPADE is going to pass through the same part of the upper atmosphere twice in a quick succession, so 2 minutes to 30 minutes apart, to see how it changes on those short time scales. Once we're done with that, then we raise one orbit, we lower the other orbit, and then the two orbits are different, and they start precessing. This is a word for the orbital planes moving with respect to each other.
Okay.
And this allows the two spacecraft to get much further apart from each other to make those simultaneous cause and effect measurements that I mentioned earlier, to understand the real-time response of the upper atmosphere to the space weather events.
And so, with all that, understanding how ESCAPADE works, knowing that this mission is going into 2029, how do you feel today?
I feel excited. I feel a little anxious, as everyone does on launch day, but I am super, super excited. I'm proud of everyone who worked on ESCAPADE, at Blue Origin, at Rocket Lab, at Berkeley, at Embry-Riddle, all of our partners. Advanced Space LLC, they were the ones who did most of the work to design this innovative path to Mars as well. And so I'm just so proud of the whole team. Probably thousands of people have worked on bits of it up to this point. And we're so excited to reach this day, the culmination of so much effort and the beginning of the next chapter.
And the last question I have for you is something I ask everyone, and that is there anything else you want to add or say or mention that I didn't ask about that you think is important to this interview?
So ESCAPADE is a very low-cost mission. ESCAPADE is only about 1/10 of the typical cost of a NASA planetary mission. This is a radical experiment by NASA in seeing whether they can accept slightly higher risk and less oversight in exchange for a much lower cost. And the idea being that overall you get way more science per dollar if you do this. And
we call it bang for your buck.
Bang for your buck, science for your dollar. And it's because we are embracing, as I said, a lighter sort of a touch by NASA. We're using more commercial off-the-shelf parts. There are fewer reviews. There are fewer sort of requirements. NASA's kind of letting us run a little more than they would typically.
Okay.
And NASA's oversight is often what drives a lot of cost. That's great, but it does come at a cost. And so this is hopefully a new way of doing at least a fraction of NASA's science portfolio with this higher risk, lower cost approach.
It's very exciting to have you here, to be able to interview you.
This is an exceptional sight. Just watching pieces of other rockets being put together, and knowing that our booster, our upper stage,
it was all built right here.
It was all built right here. The fairings, the payload adapter, it was all built right here. Yeah.
Well, Rob, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
So obviously a great interview and a great opportunity to be able to talk to Dr. Rob Lillis there. If you were just joining us, you are watching the webcast for NG2. If you're looking at your screen, you might notice we have a new L time, which is L minus 28 minutes and about 30 seconds. Now, to keep you guys updated, we know that the weather is now clear. You're like, all right, that's some good news, right? Well, we have also learned that the launch team is looking into an issue with our ground support equipment at the pad. So we wanted to give you an update on that. And of course, we're going to keep monitoring everything happening around NG2.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when you look at a rocket, you're like, oh, the rocket's going to go. There is a lot of engineering that also goes into the ground systems. That's
absolutely
the, ground system of the pad. That is the ground systems for the telemetry and the communications. We need to be tracking the vehicle. But like out there on the pad, that pad actually is a feat of engineering in its own right. In fact, this Launch Complex 36, we were talking about it earlier in the webcast, it's been used as a launch complex for decades before us. But we
great history,
but we basically cleared it out and built it back up again. The amount of power, data, propellants, all these lines that are going up there. You see the two towers, the one on the right will eventually have crew coming off of it. Slightly off the shot to the left, we've got the water tower. There you got a kind of a back out view so you can see a little bit more. There's a lot that goes on out there. We've got this huge, what we call our propellant farm. There's a lot that goes on out there. So we need that to also be working and working properly and in right conditions to keep the rocket ready to go as it ticks down. And then when we will turn, obviously, the show, if you will, over to the rocket. But in the meantime, there's a lot of work happening in the ground system. So if something is out of line, pressure, data, power, that then could translate down the line, down the pipes, literally, to the rocket, we have to check it out. So our team is on it. But, we do have a little bit of time here to do so. But it looks like the weather might be clearing up. You live here in Florida. This is wild. How do you put up with this?
10 minutes. It just keeps on a constant rotation. But I will say, you know, it is great to see NG2 on the pad, ready to go. You know what they say, if it's going to happen out there. And so right now, I'm going to toss it back over. Again, you are watching the webcast of NG2. We're at L- 26 minutes before this historic launch. Well, if you take a look on your screen, we're at L- just under 24 minutes. And Ariane, you and I have the distinct pleasure of being joined today by our very own Eddie Seyfert. And Eddie is one of my favorite people to talk to about engines. Eddie knows all things engines, as do you.
Eddie.
Engines
to you
with
live.
Eddie. We're coming to you. Let's talk a little bit about our engines.
Hey Tabitha, hey Ariane, thank you for the opportunity to talk about our rocket engines, the liquid propulsion systems that for me are one of the highlights of today's show. So our BE4 engines, which are manufactured in Kent, Washington and in Huntsville, Alabama, they're tested at Launch Site 1 at our BE4 engine test stand, as well as at the historic 4670 test stand. Now I'm a former test guy, and these BE4 engines are a medium performing variant of a high performance architecture, and the teams that test these rocket engines are just eking out more and more and more thrust, better ISP for these engines that serves our customers. So like for example, this year we delivered our 30th BE4 engine to our customer United Launch Alliance, and in the building that was behind me when this webcast started, we have multiple shipsets worth of BE4 engines for New Glenn.
Eddie, do you feel like you have a particular love for one or the other, the BE4 or the BE3? I know you were out in West Texas for a long time. We do a testing of all of our engines really there, but do you have a favorite?
Well, no, it's impossible to have a favorite, right? They're all great engines. For example,
you can't say you love one of your babies more than the other, huh, Eddie?
No. Well, they're all great engines, right? BE3U, which runs on liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen, is an open expander cycle, right? Those two molecules come together and they create a lot of energy and steam. And you know, BE3U originally started from the BE3 engine that now has flown 36 successful times on New Shepard, but they baselined it at 160,000 pounds of thrust. When it first flew earlier this year in January, it flew at 174,000 pounds of thrust. And this team is kicking butt. They keep increasing those thrust levels, keeping the performance high, and really it's all about the upper stage when it comes to the payload.
And you see they're actually on the shot, we've got the two nozzles in the second stage of the BE-3U.
Oh, wow.
Those are huge nozzles. Eddie, do you want to talk about why those nozzles are so large on the BE-3Us? Why do we have to have such massive nozzles?
Right, so in the vacuum of space, these nozzles don't have the atmosphere to push back in them and crumple them when the exhaust is being exhausted at supersonic, so faster than the speed of sound velocities. And that extra nozzle just gives you more momentum and higher specific impulse, right? 30 to 40 seconds more specific impulse, right? The analogy I like to use is if I had a big red balloon here in front of me, it would have pressure inside of it as a chamber, like a pressure vessel, and I would be holding it by its nozzle. It's a very technical term. And if I let it go, the big red balloon would essentially fly away. So I'm not saying our rocket engines are big red balloons, but it's the analogy that I like to think of.
That's a good way.
At least
Eddie,
they're blue balloons.
yeah.
They're going to be balloons, Eddie.
They don't have to be red. They've been big blue
Sorry,
balloons.
big-
He also, I remember I went to one of his, he hosts these things here at Blue Origin where we can learn more about updates with different things happening with our engines. And he is explaining essentially the shower head method and how shower head is very similar to how an engine works. But Eddie, I think it's so great to be able to talk to him anytime about engines. And we're so grateful for him. Of course, he is out with our employees. The best viewing spot to see NG2 take to the skies. You're looking at NG2 right now on the pad, and in this moment, we're going to toss it back over to the rocket because coming up here shortly, we have a very exciting go, no go poll. So we're going to toss it over to the rocket and kind of await that poll.
Copy.
All stations, this is the LD on count 1 with the go poll for final configurations and terminal count. Understand we are still pending GME final configurations and LVHD retraction, also pending weather. This is the go poll for final configs and terminal count. GC.
GC is go pending retraction of LVHD10.
LC1.
LC1 is no go pending day of launch PDI load.
Understand you are a go pending the load. LC2.
LC2 is go.
LSO.
Hello, this is RC on count 1.
GC
Go ahead.
Ursäkta att jag kuttade ut ljudet där lite, men...
Violation with a cruise ship. We're still working on Coast Guard to make contact. I'll give you an update as soon as I have it.
LD copies.
Vad otur de har. Båtar och ground systems och väder. Får se om det kan gå igenom det här då.
So you just heard the go poll there.
Ser väl sådär ut.
Seems like a conditional go according to the weather. So we are going to continue to our terminal count. And we're going to continue to also keep an eye on the weather. So lots of things that we are tracking at this moment in time.
I think we should note there just a second. So first of all, our launch director, Megan Lewis, that lady is a boss.
Yes.
She is fantastic. There's a lot of things to coordinate there, and you heard various teams giving their go, no go, and go pending. And obviously we have to track a lot, especially in these last 15 minutes, and her job in that room is to coordinate. You saw the people in the front room, but then there's also essentially what's like an engineering support room in the back.
Yeah.
So that they go off and they track things, they run things down and report back on making these clears. So they are go pending because they want to launch this rocket, and they think that there's still a chance here. So more drama.
Yeah, we're excited. This has been quite the show as you are watching in G2. We're at L-14 minutes, but in order to build a road to space for the benefit of Earth, we've got to radically reduce the cost of access to space by having our reusable rockets. So here's everything that you need to know about New Glenn.
The capability, the payload volume of New Glenn was all developed not only for today, but for the future. We have a first stage that is designed from the ground up to be operationally reusable. We have a second stage that is one of the largest upper stages to ever fly to space.
New Glenn being a reusable launch vehicle is so beneficial to future lunar missions. It's going to allow us to keep that cadence going, where we'll be able to launch multiple landers, multiple refueling flights over and over again, so that we can reduce the cost of access to the moon.
It is designed to be an incredibly resilient vehicle with a tremendous amount of mass to orbit capability. We can do anything from low Earth orbit missions where we're deploying a whole lot of small spacecraft to geostationary missions where we've got a large monolithic spacecraft.
We can do very large modules of future commercial space stations on a single launch. We can take dozens and up to 50 to 100 satellites per New Glenn mission. It is our avenue to significantly reduce the cost of access to space.
We've been working with a huge variety of customers, and they're really rethinking their business models because of what New Glenn unlocks for them.
New Glenn will be able to launch a lander to the moon in a single launch. That's an incredible capability that this one launch vehicle will be able to do. We built these landers specifically to fly with New Glenn. And that's what's so great about having the launch vehicle and the landers all part of Blue Origin, is that we work together.
It really is the infrastructure, the building block, the foundation of how Blue Origin will enable building a road to space.
We've got a number of programs we're working on like Blue Ring, which will benefit national security customers and other customers, providing on-orbit maneuvering capabilities. We're working, of course, with our own internal teams to deliver new capabilities that Blue is bringing. But New Glenn is going to be delivering all kinds of spacecraft today, all kinds of new systems, all kinds of capabilities. And New Glenn is the vehicle that can take NASA or anyone, anywhere in the solar system.
We foundationally developed New Glenn for what we think space is going to look like 50 to 100 years from now.
It will allow us to go to the moon, to asteroids and other planetary objects.
Han börjar det ändå närma sig. Men ja, om du just kommit hit så det är några saker som måste klarna upp innan de kan flyga. Framförallt så har det finns en båt i farozonen som de inte får kontakt med, så de jobbar med kustbevakningen, vad heter det? Coastal Guard i alla fall.
All right, we are at L-10 minutes
få kontakt med den här
and 34
båten.
seconds to go from New Glenn's second launch. And Tabitha, you recently had the chance to chat with our CEO Dave Limp about NG2 and what this mission means for science, but also for Blue Origin.
I certainly did. It was so great to be able to sit down and actually talk with him. And I think you guys are going to be surprised to learn just how much of this moment has really been building up over time, and how even when he was a child, you know, Dave himself had an interest in space. Check it out. This is a really big moment for Blue Origin. Can you tell me how NG2 compares to NG1?
Yeah, I think NG1 was obviously our first mission. There was lots to learn, and we did learn a lot, and unbelievably successful in that we made our goal, which was to get to orbit. This time we're going to be a little bit more ambitious, and we want to not only get to orbit, but we have our first paying customer this time with ESCAPADE, and get them off to Mars. That's the first part of our goal, and then the second part of the goal is to land the booster out on Jacqueline. And if we don't, we have more over here in the factory that we're building, but we're going to give it our best shot.
Never tell me the odds is pretty fitting for this booster. You know, we are taking our second attempt at landing it for the first time. How are you going to feel if we land it?
Well, I certainly will not channel my inner C-3PO. I will be very ecstatic. I'll be on pins and needles up to that point, but it would be a huge achievement for the team and for Blue. I think that we have a good chance, but if we don't, like I said, we can build more, but I will be over the moon if it happens.
Now, New Glenn
Det vore
is
jättehäftigt om de lyckas landa den här.
we have here, right? We have New
Alltså,
Shepard,
verkligen.
we have Lunar, we have In-Space Systems. How are all of those organizations really working together to further our ultimate goals?
Yeah, I think each component of what we do has a piece of trying to get millions of people to work and live in space, and they all have their individual. But as it relates to this particular mission, a huge amount of people have put work into it. Obviously, our engines team in building both the engines for the booster, the BE-4s, and the BE-3Us for the upper stage. We also have a huge amount of work by the obviously New Glenn team building this vehicle, but also New Shepard has been a pathfinder. So all our avionics fly on New Shepard first, so that we can get a sense of what's going on there and get a sense what it's like to have flight-ready hardware. And so it takes a whole team, and it's a very big cross-functional effort across Blue.
We have more than 10,000 employees here that are very excited about this moment. I'm one of them. What is your message to those who are going to be watching our webcast and be watching NG2 take to the skies?
Well, I think everybody will be a little bit on pins and needles, I'm sure. But I would say that this is a culmination of a lot of work from a lot of teams. It's not the end point of our journey. Obviously, we have a lot more rockets to make and a lot more customers to make happy as we move forward. But to the extent we're successful here, I hope everybody at Team Blue takes a pause, smiles a bit, celebrates, because it'll be a great achievement for us. And we'll take that deep breath, we'll sort of embrace the moment and then move on, because we have a lot of customers waiting for us to succeed. And there's nothing that makes you happier in business and in your life when you see the smile on customers' faces.
Did you ever think that you would be doing something like this in your career when you're watching your rockets launch? No?
No, not in a million years. I was very happy making Fire TVs and Echoes, but it is a boyhood dream, and so to be able to have it, I kind of pinch myself every day and just amazed that I get to wake up and help this and lead this amazing team of people build incredible technology like New Glenn.
I mean, and in reference to that, one of the first things they ask you when you come onto Blue Origin is, what is your first memory of space? What is your first memory of space?
Yeah, I have a lot of pictures. It turned out my 3rd, 4th, and 5th birthday, I have these old Polaroids of the cake, and they all have rockets on it. I was enamored with rockets as a kid, and never took the path where I thought I'd be running a rocket or a rocket company, but it turns out that it was very early in my life that I had a lot of love for it.
And we're so grateful to have you here at the helm. Dave, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And it was such a great interview to have a moment to sit down with our CEO and talk with him. If you are just tuning in, this is the launch of in G2. We are at L minus under 6 minutes, and we have to tell you guys right now we are tracking a cruise ship that is in the area and closely tracking weather, as we heard in the Go poll. But my understanding is that by the time it comes to our moment of launch, that cruise ship should be out of the way. But we are still keeping our eyes on that weather, Ariane.
Absolutely. But with that, we're under 6 minutes to go. Let's go out to Eddie, because you realize we're about 5 minutes to go from the launch. Eddie, how's everybody feeling out there?
Yeah, it is hype out here. We are so excited to be at less than 5 minutes before launch. We're excited to be here.
Eddie, is that guy on a chicken? A rooster?
Yeah, we got
Falcon.
rooster, we got rooster, and the flag. Everybody say hi to rooster. An Escapade, and this is the team that's launching the rocket today. They helped build it.
Amazing. They are absolutely psyched. And what we're waiting for here is a go, no go, final go, no go. We're bringing this down to the minute on this one. We want to launch before our window, so we're waiting on the team to determine if that's way to go.
Oh, Eddie. Let's go blue. Let's go blue. Thank you so much. We are hyped. They are hyped. Since we are at essentially L minus 4 minutes, let's go ahead and toss it back over to the rocket right now.
Ytterligare en hold. Ja, ni kan knappt se det, men det är en hold just nu i alla fall. Den är där. Där ser ni att det är lite blått. Mhm. Det verkar som att det har varit en scrub. De är utanför sitt launch window just nu. Men får vi inte veta det? Vi är ju förvisso lite outdated här. Men nu är vi live. Ja. Jag tror inte att de kommer skjuta upp någonting här. Har de meddelat någonting på Twitter? Nej. Då kanske vi fortfarande är go for launch, men de är utanför sitt window nu. Får höra om de säger något nu.
All right, friends, we appreciate you patiently waiting. So I have an update for you. Today's NG2 launch is scrubbed due to weather, specifically the cumulus cloud rule. We're reviewing opportunities for our next launch attempt based on forecasted weather. I know we were all really excited to watch NG2 take to the skies today. We came down to the wire, and then there you have it. But my name is Tabitha Lipkin. This is Ariane Cornell. We're going to keep you guys
ja, det var ju 2 timmar bortslösade av mitt liv. Men då ska jag inte sätta bort några fler timmar av mitt liv faktiskt, utan jag lämnar er direkt och så hoppas vi att det går bättre nästa tillfälle, när det nu blir. Ha det gött!